guys? Welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over an email that was sent from a subscriber. And guys, in this guy's email that he sent me, the title was, and no joke, was a huge blue pill super conservative Christian chump. And guys, that, to be honest and fair, here is exactly what we're dealing with. This is from a guy, he is 60 years old now. He's a widower. And he's going to share his story about how 20 years ago, give or take, he married the woman that was truly a nightmare. That she, like him, was supposed to be a conservative, Christian, religious woman. And he obviously had very high expectations and high hopes for her. Unfortunately, she didn't exactly live up to those things. And you're going to see here, she was quite the opposite of all that. And you're going to see here as I go through the story, this guy, and he's going to openly admit it, was a complete, blue pill chump. I mean, this guy, you want to talk about just head in the sand, never had anybody really teach him reality in terms of human nature, and particularly when it comes to the fairer sex. And he learns the hard way. And there's just so many red flags, and he lets so much stuff slide. It is just one thing after another. But fortunately, guys, this story is going to show that even as you get older, you can learn things. You can finally see the light, if you will, and you can learn things and set your life on a different path. And so even though this guy is 60 years old, he's definitely learned. And what's cool about YouTube is that by doing these videos, whatever topic somebody wants to have a YouTube channel on, people can learn from them if that's their thing. And so my goal here is to help bring awareness to guys and help guys out. And by sharing all your stories that many of you guys send in, younger guys, any guy can listen to these stories, and then they can help them not fall into the same traps or mistakes that others before them did. And especially the younger guys can learn these things from the older guys that didn't have access to something like YouTube because, YouTube didn't exist back then, or other resources, and they don't make the same mistakes, and they can then have a better path and not go through all the crap that a lot of us went through and learned the hard way. But it goes to show that you can learn these things even at 60 years old and be on a different path. And the other reason I'm doing it is to show you guys that how when you get gals that claim to be super religious and conservative and Christian and all that, that is not always what you're going to get. I have known some gals, and believe me, that certainly put on the show that they were a certain way, conservative, and they couldn't be any further from that. I grew up smothered in JC and church, okay? That was my mom's way of keeping me out of trouble. And I mean, I went into this in other videos from about 9 years old. When I was a little kid, I went to a private school in California because that was the best place to go. And it was a religious school. And I had good memories there, but they were strict. And I do chapel in the middle of the week with my class, and I had to do church on Sundays. And I moved from 9 years old to about 15 when I finally declared my independence from all that. Every week, church, Sunday school, in the summertime, Bible school, Bible camp, choir. I'll never forget my mom for that for a couple of years. Amongst many other things. Okay, smothered in it to keep me out of trouble. And believe me, I knew a lot of girls, and they weren't exactly saints, let me tell you. And I also knew a lot of people there that were total hypocrites putting on the show, but they're full of crap. But anyhow, guys, I'm going to get into this. You're going to see all the examples of things that he did, and hopefully some of you guys will learn from his mistake. And I appreciate him sending this because, believe me, he's going to hear some comments in the comment section. Don't be too hard on the guy. He learned the hard way. He's been through enough, but many of you guys can learn from this. He says, Hi, SSM. Thank you for your channel and all your videos. You're going to have a field day pointing out all the red flags lessons in my story. Bro, you have no idea. Just a few years ago, I started finding out about the red you-know-what. Up to that point, I always believed that women could not be purposely that evil and conniving. I am now a 60-year-old widower, a very conservative Christian. As you will soon see, even though a woman claims to be a Christian, it does not stop them from being, a woman. This is a long one. You may even end up going to 2 parts on this video. Nope. We're doing this all in one shot, bro. This is a good one. Looking back, I can now see many red flags that as a blue pill beta chump ignored because I refused to believe that a conservative Christian wife would do so. Bro, you're not alone. A lot of guys do this. A lot of guys put their head in the sand and just don't want to accept reality, don't want to believe that their wife or their girl is capable of doing awful things, lying to them, cheating, manipulating, all this stuff. And I want to point out here that, again, I've covered some pretty awful stories in this channel, okay? But it doesn't mean that all are this bad, okay? And there are some good ones out there. Sadly, in 2021, almost 2022, that's becoming more rare, but there are some good ones out there. It's pretty hard to find them. Anyhow, he said, I was married to her for 13 plus years. I'm sure that felt like 100 years. There are enough red flags in my story that you could write an instructional manual warning other guys. I know we'll get a lot of comments about how stupid I was, and I deserve every last one of them, but if it helps just one man avoid what I went through, I consider it worth it. Well, I appreciate you doing this, man. Yeah, you're going to get comments. I know my audience here, but guys, don't be too harsh on him. He's been through some hard times. We can all learn here from his mistakes. At the time, I was 41 and she was 36. We met through the preachers of our respective churches located about 20 miles apart. Both churches are what you would call super right-wing conservative churches. Think modest ankle-length dresses on the women, all prim and proper. She was at church twice a week, and any other times the doors were open. She was highly respected by the people there. SEX before marriage was a no-no. We dated, got engaged, and married in a year. Dude, 1 year? You need a long time to get to know these girls before you're going to get married to them. I can't stress this enough, guys. Take your time. It takes years. Now, obviously, because it sounds like we're hooking up. Obviously, down south, someone was urging you to seal the deal so you can start getting some. But it's not worth it, man. Now, everybody's religious faith is their business, okay? I'm not going to tell anybody how to live their lives, how to believe what, So if that was your faith and that was what you want to do, obviously wait to have you-know-what before you got married or whatever it is. Okay, it's your business. I'm not going to judge. But unfortunately, that waiting period tends to speed things up for people, and they rush into things without really thinking things through or getting to know somebody too well. He says there was no, and he wrote no in giant letters, no sex before marriage, but we did talk about it. She promised me to the moon sexually in our talks once we were married. In other words, let's speed up the process here and you'll get all you want. Now, how did that turn out? He said married at 42 and she was 37. She was a divorcee and so was I. She had no children. She had told me there was only one man before me, her ex-husband. Sure. Her preacher's wife had spoken to her to ensure that our wedding date would not fall on her cycle. No, it wouldn't. We had the wedding and headed to a hotel for the night. On the 1-hour trip, she informed me that her cycle had started. That was when she was 2 weeks early on and didn't know how that happened because she always, in the past, had been regular as clockwork at 28 days. I now believe she planned it that way. Dude, you were just getting to the beginning of her planning shit. Right from the start, sex was not what she promised in her talks. Imagine that. A bait-and-switch wife. It was basically in the dark and missionary style. In other words, the most boring kind of sex you can imagine. Sex could only be 1 to 3 minutes in time, less than a minute. I was a selfish pig, I agree, more than 3 minutes, and I was being a filthy animal. She was calling me by other guys' names after a few months. That's disrespectful. Probably testing to see if you'll call her on that disrespectful, rude behavior. And did you? She called me Bob, which was her ex-husband's name, divorced for years, Brian, Bill, Brett, etc. Well, she likes her B's. I called her on it and said maybe her ex's name once, but it will stop. She told her mom I was being mean. Her mom calls me and is telling me not to be mean to her daughter. I'd say, mother-in-law, I'm in my 40s, she's in her 30s, she's my wife now. Mind your own business. I tell her mom why I'm being mean, and she humbly asked to speak to her daughter. I guess her mom set her daughter straight because my wife never called me another man's name after that. Always honey, sweetheart, but rarely used my name. So at least in the beginning, you stood up to her on that part, so good for you. So you probably got her respect for like 6 minutes. Having SCX, she started wanting to pretend I wasn't her husband and to hurry up before her husband came home. I told her we are not doing that. It is wrong. She tried using the Bible verse that the marriage bed is underfilled, but I told her that is not what that verse means. So she wanted to play a little role playing, like pretending you're not the husband and acting like she's cheating and not trying to get caught. Okay, some people like to play those type role playing types of game. Okay, to each their own, but we can see here where this is going. A rented mobile home was too small for her to clean. A rented house was too big for her to clean. She burnt more meals than she did over the 13 years of marriage. After we were married, she tells me that she is mad that God made her a woman. Okay, so she's also mental. After we were married about a year, she tells me that before she became a Christian a few years ago, that she used to love teasing men. Now that does not surprise me in the least. And I've known a number of gals that were the religious types when I was younger, and most certainly like to do that. She was from a big city and said she would ride the buses while wearing low-cut tops and skimpy loose shorts. She would not wear any panties or bra, would put on a show for men sitting across from her, get them all worked up, and then run off the bus. She said she never had SEX with any of them. Yeah, okay. I now doubt that to be the truth. I told her what it was known as PTs. She said, so what, and didn't care. She enjoyed it. Of course she enjoyed it. She obviously back then was in her prime, in her 20s, and just loved to get reaction out of guys, play games. You know, the old joke is how why women don't play video games, because they got men. They got men to play with. Her one sister visited one day and stayed overnight in a guest bedroom. Sexually, my wife was quiet and quick. Not this night. She was loud enough to make sure her sister knew we were having you-know-what, even through 2 closed doors and several walks in a hallway. We had our marriage counseling with 3 different preachers, including my own preacher who was married. All 3 basically said I was the problem and he'd improve for my wife. What do I tell you guys about the counseling? They always make the guy the bad guy. Looking back these many years, with 20/20 hindsight, I have strong suspicions that my preacher also had you-know-what with my wife. In this day and age, I wouldn't rule out anything is impossible. And this is all the first year of marriage, I might add, guys. We aren't not even done yet. 18 months into our marriage, I started hearing now I wasn't treating her good enough, nor taking her on exotic trips. Her ex-husband's family had money, and also meant that the ex had money too. I had a full-time job working Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, working 10 hours a day, from 4 p.m. to 2 a.m. The job paid average wages for the area. She was a stay-at-home wife. I was paying for the rest for her past credit card bills, past student loans for college that she quit, and half of the mortgage on her mom's mobile home, a total of $6,000. Her mom did pay that back to me. My wife's ex-husband used to take her 2 to 3 times a year to the Bahamas, snorkel, diving, fancy hotels. So, no offense, but if you weren't making a lot of money, and the ex obviously was, I'm kind of surprised, no offense, but how she ended up with you if you were making just average wages, average living. Because you'd think that she wants somebody else, but maybe she's getting it someplace else. I don't know. So you're doing the best you could. Okay. Now here's my question. Since you didn't have any children, why wouldn't she get off her butt and get a job? She obviously said student loans, so... Now you said she quit, but obviously she got some school. She could get something to help contribute. If she wanted to go somewhere on vacations, everything, she can get her ass off the couch and get herself a job. Even if it was part-time, I would insist full-time. If there's no kids in the picture, she should be working full-time. Because you said that this was like 20-some years ago. So we're going back to 2001, 2002, give or take. She could get a job. Not that hard. So what gives? I think that obviously you were allowing that. And I gotta call it, guys. Soon after, she wrote a 5 to 6 page letter with both sides of the paper filled. Basically, a trip down memory lane with him. She made me read it and said she was mailing it to her ex. You're not doing that. You're married to me now. You're not writing any letters to your ex. You're not staying in communication with your ex. After reading it, I said, here's money for the stamp. Mail it. Should never allow that. She did. Soon after, she got a response back from his wife. We were both doing fine. My wife had told me she had divorced her ex due to him stealing and almost going to prison. I now suspect he was the one wanting the divorce. We're now renting a house in a rural area. My job brings me home at 2 a.m. A nearby home is just a husband and wife, mid-30s, no children. Friday nights when I pass by there on the way home, are normally 4 to 5 cars parked there, but their interior lights are dim. I began to suspect that there are SCX parties happening there. Months later, my wife starts calling the wife that lives there, names like Trixie, Foxy, etc. Looking back, I now believe my wife was attending those SCX parties while I was working. If you suspected that back then, you should have confronted her. But let's be honest now, I'm going to probably assume that with your religious faith, that divorce is a big no-no. But you said you've been divorced already. You probably didn't want to have to go through that all over again. And here's another thing. After the marriage not working out the first time, I'm surprised you got married a second time. But these are the kind of things guys do. You should never tolerate this bullshit. You allowed a lot of crap to happen that if you obviously felt better about yourself, you wouldn't allow. But then again, if you had your eyes open like the way you do now, back then, you wouldn't have gotten together with her in the first place. But it is what it is, and your story and examples, although cringeworthy ones, will help some guys. So I appreciate this. Farther down the road lives a same-sex couple that my wife said she always saw out walking and would talk to them. I now suspect that maybe something went on there too. These were 2 women. At the rented house, the landlady hired a man to put a new metal roof on, plus insulate the sides and put on vinyl siding. He came to work on that Friday and Saturday afternoon and evenings while I was at work. He had a daytime job and could only come then. Call him Jack. He was taking a long time to complete the work. Even the landlady was complaining about how slow his progress was, but he was related to her, so. Imagine that. He can only come at the time when you're not there, at night, and he was taking unusually long to do the project. What could possibly have been slowing him down? Oh, bro. All these things right in front of you. And so my wife thought he was so manly, handling all those manly carpenter tools. In later years, me and my wife were driving through a rural back road, and suddenly she looked around and exclaimed, "Doesn't Jack live around here? I never knew where Jack lived. So how does she know?" Years later, we started a cleaning service to help make more money. She runs the phones. I go do the cleaning. In 2 years, I was grossing as much as a regular job over the weekend, and I was thinking about quitting the weekend job because the wife was always complaining about me working weekends on the second shift. Then the wife started accusing me of having affairs with the women at the home I was cleaning. Get the hell out of here. She's accusing you because she's been doing stuff, and now in her mind, since she's a cheater, and that's her world, that of course you're doing it. Or as a way to justify what she's doing by saying you're cheating. Or just wants to start a whole bunch of drama with a good man. I soon got tired of that and made her go do all the cleaning. Well, good for you. Unfortunately, what took me 2 years, 730 days to build the business, she literally destroyed in 30 days and ended up in debt because she destroyed some things in people's homes which she always had to pay for. Since the beginning of our marriage, she had always accused me of cheating on her. I'm average looking, and over the years of our marriage, there were women making some offers, but I always said no. I took my marriage vows seriously. Yes, because you're a good man, and you took those vows seriously, like you said. You know, I've done a lot of stories or personal stories where guys say they had many opportunities that they could have cheated, and they didn't do them because they loved their wives and felt that it was wrong. Meanwhile, you find out that their wife was left and right. The only cleaning job she kept from the business was a heating oil supplier company, consisting of an office and garages. No one was there to let her in till 7 a.m. and she worked till 10 a.m. She would leave at 6:45 to get there 7 a.m. One day she had problems with the minivan we drove, and one of the mechanics fixed it, a simple fix. Now she's bragging on him. Several weeks later, she starts leaving early for the cleaning job. When I question her why she needs to go on so early when it doesn't open till 7 a.m., she says she'd be sitting in the minivan in the parking lot in a secluded area for 45 minutes in the dark reading her Bible. Yeah, I'm sure that's why she got up so early to go and read her Bible. Come on here. What a piece of garbage. She also now, when she gets home, refuses to hug or kiss me until she gets in the shower right away. Now, there's a big sign. She's trying to wash the sin right off her. Before this, it was always a hug and a kiss. Now she is wanting me to take her out at night to have you-know-what in the minivan because she says she wants to spice up our sex life. Our sex at this point is basically once every 2 or 3 months because she finds ways to get out of sex. She initiates it, then finds a reason not to finish it. In other words, she can always keep you, she can reel you in back and forth, keeping you in a weaker position. She can control you through that. Years later, the preacher of the church she used to go to, his wife left him for another man. My wife was suddenly encouraging me to find a girlfriend. Now she wants you to have a girlfriend, probably to justify. It sounds like an open marriage. How well do those always work out? Bro, you should have left her years ago. You should have married to begin with. But after all this BS started, you should have ended it years ago. Look how much crap you put up with all those years. You could have found someone better. If you'd gotten rid of her and gained some of this knowledge, you could have had a much happier life. I'm sorry you went through all this crap, but you let a lot of stuff happen. But this goes to show, guys, when guys don't have a good role model or don't have a strong self-worth, they put up with so much BS. It's really a shame. Again, this is why I do what I do, to help guys out. She wanted me to find a girlfriend. She wanted to be with the preacher. She would make him a wonderful preacher's wife and was going to use me having adultery as a biblical reason to divorce me, to set you up. I refused to, and she didn't even realize that according to conservative Bible, that if the preacher would divorce his adulterous wife and marry my wife, he would be disqualified from preaching, and doubly so with her being a 2-time divorced woman. Now we're getting to the end of the story here. We're getting to the part that you guys have been cringing all along. We'll finally be like, thank the Lord. He says here, my wife died of cancer by age 50, 10 weeks from when it was discovered till she died. I gotta wonder if it's cancer, if it was some other, an STI or something that have just withered her from within. The night before she died, she sat in the living room across from me. She said, I love you, and thanks for taking such good care of me over the years. I've been like, F you. I took her to the hospital because she was losing her balance. That night, while I was tending to her, water to drink and making sure her blanket was up, she started talking to people she said was in the room. One of the people was Jack from early in the story. I got an earful that night, tending to her needs as a faithful Christian husband, and at the same time crying because of what I was hearing. My modest Christian woman was behaving as a wild woman with other men, doing anything and everything that he wanted. The next morning, the doctor was ready to send us home, and her sitting in the bed, bossing the doctor and nurses, and she suddenly died. So whether her telling me to that day before that she loved me and thanks, if that was her way of apologizing for her adultery, I don't know. Dude, her going at 50 was, I think, a blessing from above. And Lord knows where she is now. Upstairs or downstairs. Something tells me that the devil's poking her in the ass with his pitchfork. There are many more things that happen, but you can see that even if your gal is a conservative Christian wearing ankle-length dresses and skirts, that she's still a gal and will cheat on you just as quick as any other woman. Well, given your experiences here, I don't blame you for saying this, but not everyone is like this. I'm fair here. I'm middle of the road here compared to other dudes on YouTube. Not all are like that, but believe me, most are capable of this. And let's be honest, they're all capable of it. But there are some good ones out there, but it's more and more rare nowadays. Looking back, I believe that my wife cheated on me from day one when we met before she died. I've been able to piece together evidence that there were at least 5 to 6 different guys. Most of the affairs were months long, and I suspect that there are a lot more, but I simply quit digging. There's no point anymore, man. Don't torture yourself. If you need to do this to learn from your mistakes, to help others and put you on a different path, then okay. But don't torture yourself. You can't change the past. You can only learn from it. SSM probably already said it, but with her being 36, I was a blue-pilled guy with a job to pay her bills and support her while she still rode the bad boys. Unfortunately, that's pretty much how it looks like, and I'm sorry it happened to you, man, but it is what it is. Like I said just a moment ago, you can't change the past, but you can learn from it. You're 60 years old now. Your life is not over, okay? And so you've gained all this knowledge, and now by you having the balls to email me your story, and yeah, you're going to get shit about this in the comments section. I hope guys will be not too harsh, but it is what it is. Don't take it personally. But your story will help others. And that's why I do all these stories. I love mixing up articles, crazy stories, personal stories. These will help guys out. You're doing a favor. So people can learn from your mistakes. You're doing a service. But from this point on, man, I'm going to recommend you don't get married again. If your religious faith is important to you, keep going to church, do what things make you happy, exercise, stay in shape, and just live out your life doing what makes you happy. But you've learned. But I would just start doing things to take care of you and gain more self-respect and self-worth, because when you truly reach a point, man, when you are happy with yourself, and you see the big picture and you understand human nature, you're not going to tolerate disrespect and crap from anybody. And if that means you got to be alone, at least you got to be alone. You know, a guy, it's far better to be alone than tolerate being mistreated by a lot of people. And a lot of people can't do that. They'll be taken advantage of or mistreated by family or friends or coworkers, you name it. It's far better to be alone. You can be there with your dog, or if you're a cat person like me, you can be there with your cats, and you're good to go. But the truth is, when you're a guy that respects yourself and doesn't tolerate any BS, other people will respect you too, and you will have good people in your life. But just, they know they could cross you, they're toast. Doesn't mean you gotta be a jerk about it. But anyhow, man, you went through a lot, and I'm sorry you went through that, but at least you learned. But life is not over, okay? Life is not over. Learn from it. Keep going on. And you've definitely helped people out, so I appreciate you doing it. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me just think about this. And, guys, if you got a great story you'd like to share, email it to me. I'll definitely do it down the road. Just make sure it's well written. And this story, I think, is a couple months old, so, it shows you that I get a lot, but I will get to it eventually. Just be patient. And this also goes for good articles that you think will be good for this channel. And be sure to like the video, share it with your friends, and subscribe. I'll catch you next time.